This is obviously a special day, an important day for Josh, but it's also equally important for us as an organization on two fronts. First of all, Josh coming on board to our management group and our supervisory team that's here, he brings on a new and different set of skill sets and experiences and traits, things like that, and just broadens our perspective, as a management group and a management team for the city. And that's super important. If we were all the same, that wouldn't be a good thing either. And so having that diversity is really important, especially in the nature of the work that we do and the different things that we confront in a community. The other aspect that's important for us is Josh's promotion allows us to backfill a position that we haven't had in place for 8, almost 9 years, and that's in our special operations unit. That's the unit of the patrol division that contains our park ranger and our traffic and our school resource and our neighborhood resource, gang resource to some degrees, PPT. It's an important unit, and for the last 8 or 9 years, we've run without a supervisor in that unit, and we've shared that supervisory duty between the sergeants that we have and lieutenants, and it's worked, but it doesn't work as effectively as when you can have actually a full-time supervisor that's there. Because if you can imagine, just by the titles that I mentioned, the specialization of each one of those that's there, and they deserve and require support from their supervisor as well. So Josh, although he's not moving into that role, he may someday down the road, his promotion as an organization allows us to fill that really needed void that's there. And we're going to be doing that next after his promotion. For you all that may or may not be as familiar with what we do, as our profession, we face a lot of challenges, both here in the statewide, nationwide, to our profession, but also here as a community and opportunities. Last couple of years, we faced some, real challenges with COVID. And how do we change our operations, and how do we change the way we do business, and how we do that in a safe way and a more effective way. Obviously, you've seen in the news the police reform that's gone on, and how do we adapt to the concerns brought by our citizens and our community about, disparate treatment or discriminatory practices or excessiveness. And although I don't believe that's the nature of certainly the Mount Vernon Police Department or even Skagit County agencies, because we're familiar with them all, it's certainly a criticism that's been brought to the profession, and because we serve the people, we're obligated to respond to that. We're being challenged in technology that's gone on. We were digital for a while. Now we're mobile. Now we're virtual. And starting in mid-December, end of December, we're all wearing now body-worn cameras. And technology is just going at such a pace and such a churn. Trying to keep up with that. Both from the standpoint of, moving our profession forward and working smarter than harder, on things, but also to provide tools and access that allow our community to have a more direct connection that's going on. There's some super exciting things going on in our community landscape. The mayor's been just nose to the grindstone and headlong into our Library Commons project downtown. And that's a huge facelift for down there. It's a real anchor, and also a parking garage. Because what that means is it transforms the capability of what downtown can be and to look like. She actually added the vision, if you will, of looking at a wide bank of car charging stations. Because what that does is it brings customer bases from outside Mount Vernon who may or may not have thought to stop here, if you will, but will now because they need to use that device. And if they use that device, they might need a sandwich. They might need a sandwich, they might shop downtown. They might shop downtown, they might stay overnight, okay? So what that means is it's gonna bring for us into that corridor down there, a different way that we might need to approach and deliver policing services at there. We're constantly being challenged, if you will, to try to find people like Josh and Brent and Paul and all the people here that you see that are working. And it's difficult. It's really difficult. I was doing a speech for Rotary this afternoon and just talking about some of these challenges that we face in there. And I was asked the question, where are you at with your staffing levels? Do you have enough staff? And, the thing for us is the turnover rate. When we lose an officer, say to retirement or whatever, it takes us on average 14 to 15 months before we're going to see that person on their own. And we're constantly pressed, if you will, to rush that, to get people out. And that's the biggest mistake that we could make. If we don't follow that on with the quality and the character you see in these individuals, Josh represents that, we run the risk of stepping our profession back. So we're constantly being vigilant about that. But my point is, what attracts people to come here? It's people with like-minded values, like-minded interests. So when they see people like Josh, and they see that type of leadership that they're going to work under, that's a recruiting strategy ourselves. So it takes leadership, if you will, at all levels of the organization to accomplish that. But when you look at our business engine, if you will, every single one of the staff that's here, I don't care whether you wear a badge and a gun and a uniform, or you're a detective, or you're a community service officer, a park ranger, I don't care if you're facilities maintenance. It takes every one of those people individually to make our business engine run. But when you look at our organizational layers, arguably you could say that the first line supervisor position is really the most important. The mayor and I can have all the great vision and establish really glossy mission statements and figure out where we need to be 10 or 15 years ago, or 10 or 15 years in the head. We can have lieutenants and managers that design strategies that complement that vision and mission and start to connect ways to do that. But to really get the traction to get that done is right at that first line supervision level. Because we can do all of those things, but if people like Josh and Brandon, and I can't see another sergeant right now, but Mike Don, I think I saw out there, those individuals in their role can't translate that. And can't translate that to a wide variety of different types of people at different experience levels. Anything we do at the top doesn't get accomplished at that lower level. And it takes unique intellect, skills, and traits to accomplish that. It takes an individual who can look upward at what's coming down. And again, those visionary pieces that are sometimes so abstract and so hard, homelessness, okay, substance abuse, addiction, poverty, things like that have, the tangibility of those things are difficult to get around. It takes individuals at that first line level, if you will, that can look up at those things, recognize the value where those strategies are at, but then turn right back around in a very practical sense, put things into place to make our business engine run. I think two of Josh's greatest traits are his relationships, his ability to relate to people, and his ability to educate and teach. He loves to teach and educate. And Josh brings some really great background to what it is that we need to do. He started out in corrections, Snohomish County. He's been in a frontline position with our organization in the patrol division, uniform patrol division, for 15 years coming up. He's been on our tactical team, both as an operator in some of the highest risk incidents that we put people forward on. He's been part of the marksman group, taking it from a single person entity with Paul Shaddy, looking at a marksman spotter combination, which is really valuable in that, re-equipping it, making sure that the training there. He's been a lead officer for us. And I thought it was kind of ironic when I read my email, I think it was Sunday, when Sergeant Ben Green, who's his sergeant right now, sends an email saying, I'm out sick, I'm going to be a couple of days, but don't worry, Josh is working. He's the lead officer for the squad. And I thought, why are we even doing a promotion ceremony? He's already supervising the dang squad, if you will. So I show up today and we cross paths and he's headed out and he's in that first line supervision role. So today is a formality to do what he's already doing out there in the field. Josh was one of the original members a few years back when we were re-looking at how we deploy our first responders in patrol. We wanted to attach that to a more community-based scheme than we had before. How we would originally deploy is just people would come and they would take general areas of the city and switch back and forth. And we wanted more intimate connection with the community. So we developed a neighborhood deployment strategy or a zone deployment strategy. And Josh was one of the original members on that, helped formulating that vision for the future. Up in Seneca Highlands, where he's been for a few years, he's developed relationships with residents there. He's worked on problems with them there, fixed issues that have gone on in our community. Earlier this year, the range group that he's been a part of, he's been a firearms instructor, we're taking a look at our ammunition, or really our duty weapons, if you will, and felt that we should rethink or relook at that equipment. So we pushed that back on him and said, you're the subject matter experts. And when they brought that forward, I think all of us figured that we were going to have a choice in what it is that we used or did. But the research that they did made it more clear that we didn't need to choose between one. We needed to implement both. Because what we found from it was that individuals did better with either one of the firearms that's there. And if we're in a position where we have to use that critical decision-making, use deadly force, we want people to have the best tools in their hands, to apply to that. And that decision, and I'll admit, because I was the one that had to make it ultimately, I did not come into that being convinced that it would be good to go with two different caliber types, just for the confusion it could cause. But they made a convincing argument, and then they turned around and made a convincing argument how they could do it with the least amount of risk. Josh was also part of a group, a planning group, if you will, that said our current method for how we're qualifying officers by scoring, we're not comfortable with anymore. We don't know if this can stand the test, if you will, if we're challenged by it. All right, bring what you think it would be. And now we're using a qualification course today that mirrors the research that they brought forward. Recently, Ben Green and Shackle, remember this, as a lead officer, there's many stories you could tell of Josh, but we were chatting about one which was just a few months back. In fact, I think it was your second day as lieutenant or something, from the bridge closure, the jumper. Yeah. So brand new lieutenant gets a call and says, hey, the bridge between Burlington and Mount Vernon is closed because we got a jumper on the bridge. And Josh was the lead officer that particular day. And the reason they were sharing the story is because there was pressures on Josh as a supervisor to quickly open that bridge for various reasons from different jurisdictions. But Josh looked at that and said, the pressures of us getting cars across is not more important than us trying to resolve this without that person going over. And in the end, that's what they did. But it was role definition and assignments and patience, making our choices, if you will, in the face of potentially criticism of that. So I could go on and on and on about Josh, but what I wanted you to understand and recognize is that what he brings to us as a group is very valuable. And when you take a look at what we're facing as a community, it's even more valuable to have that type of leadership in our ranks at places, again, where they can see community problems, translate it through, vision, mission, strategies, if you will, and then just have really actionable items that are out there. And so I'm super glad to have Josh on board, and I think it's only fitting that we just keep moving this along so you can actually do it, correct? So at this time, I think I'll ask our mayor, Jill Boudreau, to come forward. And Josh, if you wouldn't mind, you can come right over here now. Right. You can stand before the group.
Great. Where would you like me?
That works? I think that's good. Good. All right. Hi.
Hey.
So I just want to add just a few more things to what Chief Kamek said. And again, thanks for everyone to come here that's supporting Josh today. And I want to thank him specifically for being willing to step up into leadership. It's not something that everyone's willing to do. And so it's truly appreciated by not only myself, but the city council and all of our residents here that you're willing to put yourself into this role. So thank you for that. Here at Mount Vernon Police Department, we've learned really early on that it's not the police that are going to keep our community safe on their own, that it's a group that is the success of this community. It's our community as part of it. It's the same thing in leadership. It's not the success of an individual person, it's your entire group, whether it's your work family or your family that's supporting you. And so I want to wish you all the success with your family and the community around you as you take on this new responsibility. One little quote I was going to read from a book I have, it's called The Nobility of Policing. So it says, every officer is a leader. To every man there comes in his lifetime that special moment when he is figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered a choice to do a very special thing, unique to him and fitted to his talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds him unprepared or unqualified for the work, which would be his finest hour. That was Sir Winston Churchill. And as Chief Kamek kind of went over, you prepared yourself for this role, and we know you're going to be successful. So let's just make it official. All right.
Thank you.
You want to raise your right hand?
All right.
I, Joshua J. Maxwell,
I, Joshua J. Maxwell,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the State of Washington
of the State of Washington
and the ordinances of the City of Mount Vernon,
and the ordinances of the City of Mount Vernon,
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties of the office of Sergeant
the duties of the office of Sergeant
according to law,
according to law,
to the best of my ability and understanding,
to the best of my ability and understanding,
in and for the City of Mount Vernon,
in and for the City of Mount Vernon,
State of Washington,
State of Washington.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So one of the things that we recognize, if you will, is that it's more than just the staff member that provides the service here. The family is affected as well. So Krista, on behalf of us as the police department and as of the city, we would just like to thank you for your support and service as well.
Thank you.
Okay? Now, you want to come up and stick him?
Yep. I'm waiting for this.
Yeah, so,
6 months.
hang on, I gotta preface this. So, this morning when I see him, I says, now Chris is pinning your badge. Yeah, right. Yeah, I did the dishes. I've been good all week. I'm the official badge pinning.
There we go.
Thank you.
Josh, is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, let me, 35 is what you told me.
Take what you need, you're dead.
It truly is a privilege for me to work with such a group of professionals. It's not hard for me to come to work every day. It's a great job. It's a wonderful career. It's largely in part due to the people that I work with and the people that I work for. Mount Vernon is not only my home, but it's a community that I love dearly. And, I'm very grateful that I get the opportunity to continue to work for them in this capacity now as well. So thank you to the community. Thank you to everybody I work with. And thanks for showing up. I appreciate the effort that everybody made to get here, because ultimately I couldn't stand here without the love and all the contributions that you guys have made for me to be standing here. So appreciate it. Love y'all.